Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check the link above to my Patreon page. I'm back with the fifth and final round of a modern competitive league. Currently sitting at 3-1. I've beaten Goblins, the Merfolk Mirror, and Red-Green Ponza. And I lost to Jund in a terrible fashion, so I have a chance to go 4-1 here. It looks like the opponent won the die roll. Let's look at the opening hand. So, this guy has a mythic border here. You know, it's funny. At first, I found these things a little bit intimidating because in order to gain one of these, in order to get one of these mythic borders, you need to have some insane amount of success. Some like crazy number, like 10 5-0s or something in whatever format. It could be modern, could be limited. But, you know, I feel like I actually do really, really well against random mythic avatars. So, I feel like it's my best matchup. Maybe I up my game when I see that I'm playing against a serious opponent. And actually, I Googled this guy, and he almost won the recent Modern Challenge online. He, I think he went 7-0 in the Swiss, and then lost in the semifinals or something like that. And I think it actually ended up being the deck that I'm playing against here. So it's a really serious opponent. And this is just a beautiful hand to see in the fifth round of League. And I also don't mind seeing my opponent mulligan, I have to say. They did put a card on top, so hopefully it's going to be at least an interesting game. Cavern of Souls, my heart stopped for a second because I thought maybe Merfolk, but then I thought Mythic Avatar, probably not Merfolk. Eldrazi, now it's a pretty slow land, so that feels good, but I feel pretty terrible holding 2 Spell Pierces against Cavern of Souls. It's just terrible on so many levels. I'm gonna lead with Wanderwine Hub here. Just reveal the Silvergill. Doesn't really matter too much. Even if well, they're not taking the Silvergill out of my hand this turn, for sure. So the sequencing on this and this doesn't matter a ton. But I've learned over just, you know, thousands and thousands of matches that in general, in the beginning of the game, you want to have access to a lot of blue sources. So it's possible I draw into another blue source, maybe 2 more blue sources. And for all I know, he could go for like Dismembers or Spatial Contortions or something like that. And maybe the Spell Pierces actually come in handy. So I prefer to lead with the blue mana. Okay, pretty slow opening for the opponent. I was actually a little bit afraid they were going to open with something like Walking Ballista. It would just kind of be annoying with the 1 toughness Silvergill Adept, but Chalice of the Void on 1 is actually totally fine with me. This deck that we're playing against is clearly not designed to beat Merfolk because Chalice is just straight garbage against us. I mean, obviously the Spell Pierces are pretty dead, but tell me if you see a target that I could have hit with Spell Pierce in this game. Even without Chalice on the board. So I'll reveal Reejerey because seems to likely be the next guy that I'm going to play. And drawing into more Lords seems pretty good against Eldrazi. All right, so a Sky Spawner. This is old tech and apparently new tech. I think it's trying to make a comeback. Now, Eldrazi's Sky Spawner has been played in Bant Eldrazi for a really long time, but this is not Bant Eldrazi, I don't think. It's a different deck altogether. You can see they run Sanctum of Ugin for one thing, which was not played in Bant Eldrazi. AEther Vial is going to go up to 2 here. We're looking for Spreading Seas at this point. Land is excellent, actually. But Spreading Seas at some point, clearly, so that we can push our damage through. Now, Chalice is on 1. We don't have enough blue to play out a Lord and actually hold up Chalice, even if it was reasonable. Let's look at this art on this thing. That's kind of cool. I think I still prefer the old art anyway. We're definitely going to play this, and I think we just slam Reejerey, right? Oh, no, actually, I think we take this opportunity to play Kira. I'm going to attack with Silvergill here. If they block with the Scion, I can flash in the Lord. Obviously, that would be a pretty sketchy decision on the opponent's part. But I'm happy to trade with the Sky Spawner here. If I'm gonna get Kira onto the board, it'd be great if they don't have any flyers. Also, I just have a nice advantage card-wise, so I'm trying to encourage trades here. He goes for the block with the Scion, which is but then backs off. All right, so flashing in the Lord is unnecessary. Trading with this Sky Spawner is just fine for me. I drew a card off my Silvergill Adept anyway. So yeah, I am going to get Kira down here. I felt this guy might play... God, that 6-drop that taps our creatures. I'll think about it in a minute. It's like the Haymaker in Bant Eldrazi. Drowner of Secrets? Drowner of something? Drowner of Hope. Drowner of Hope, right? Not Delver of Secrets. Okay, so what is he doing here? Black mana, Eldrazi Temple. What is happening? Oh, so a Thought-Knot Seer. Yeah, I've got redundant Island Walk Lords, so whatever. I just let him see my hand. He took the Merrow Reejerey. It's an interesting choice. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in an Island Walk Lord. Things are looking pretty good for us. The opponent's on 2 cards. I'm actually on 1 card since these Spell Pierces are like deader than dead. Okay, and that was a beautiful card draw. We want to we want to keep drawing cards. We want to keep expanding our board. So I'll play the Silvergill, reveal the Lord that they already know about. And things are just going our way here. I'm going to attack with Kira. Now, I was sort of worried that he might play All Is Dust. If he slams another Eldrazi Temple, he has Xaxes for All His Dust. But I don't really know what's going on with this deck. Actually, not Xaxes, because any land would do for All His Dust, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with the Scion. Always have to look out for these Scions. They can be really tricky. Like, if we try to counter something with Cursecatcher, they can pay for it with a Scion, then we feel pretty stupid. Our opponent feels obliged to attack with Thought-Knot, and I'm just not interested in blocking this thing. Okay, so Eternal Scourge. I wonder if there are certain decks that this is like really good against. Like maybe Path decks. Like if they try to Path this thing, they just get to play it again from exile. Oh, but the thing is, it gets exiled anytime that it's targeted. Is there a combo with this card? Maybe it's just repeatable value. It's like a phantasmal image that can just keep coming back. Oh, I think that these decks, I think, is this Emerge? Is that what the name of that mechanic is, where you get to sacrifice creatures or something like that? To reduce costs? I don't know. Anyhow, tell me what you guys think about Eternal Scourge. It doesn't seem like it's going to do very well against what I'm working with here. Obviously, we want to draw another land. I'm going to play this Lord of Atlantis when the opponent goes to my his end step. Things are looking good for us. I could also draw a Spreading Seas. I mean, it's getting to that point where the game's going to sort of... so ask and ye shall receive. Let's hit that Eldrazi Temple. Maybe draw a land would be pretty good, I guess. Another Spreading Seas, not terrible. So I had to think for a second about Dismember, but then I remembered I've got Kira. So let's just go bananas and swing in for 12. Easy 2-turn clock, especially with Mutavault here. Don't even need to play the Master of Waves. All right, so as I mentioned, Mythic Avatars tend to be my best matchups. That one went pretty well. Opponent did mulligan to 6, so they were at a slight disadvantage. Anyhow, let's see how Game 2 went. All right, I'm back here with Game 2. The opponent's going to be on the play. And I'm going to keep this. It's value. He mulliganed to 6 again. Maybe actually my best matchup is against guys who mulligan all the time. So he did keep 6, and he put it on top. I think that was exactly the same as last game. Underground River. Okay, we didn't see any colored mana last game. So this is new to us. All right, so it's just a blue-black pain land. We want to hit lands. Oh, man. All right, so the magic gods are with me right now. Get to play AEther Vial, and I revealed Master of the Pearl Trident because we're likely just going to play that guy next turn. Okay, opponent has a really slow mulligan, I guess. get to take Aether Vial up and just play our creature. There's no good target for Spreading Seas. Obviously, we want to save that for like Eldrazi Temple, Sanctum of Ugin maybe. Cavern of Souls. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me show you my sideboard strategy real quick. I took out 3 Cursecatchers because there's not really a lot of non-creature stuff that we want to counter. So 3 Cursecatchers and 2 Spell Pierces out. So 5 kind of non-creature targeting spells in for things that do better against creatures. So what were those spells? Certainly the 2 Echoing Truths. Oh, and then 3 Ceremonious Rejections, which are clearly like the best possible card to have against any Eldrazi deck. So actually, Cavern of Souls presents itself as a really good target for Spreading Seas because I have 3 Ceremonious in after boarding. And Cavern of Souls just plays right around Ceremonious Rejection. But here's another Sky Spawner. Developing some creatures, so these Spreading Seas might come in handy to make our guys unblockable. All right. So it looks like this turn Reejerey is probably the best option. I don't want to attack because... Oh, hold on a second. I didn't do what I was actually saying I was going to do. Apparently during the round, I thought that taking him off of Cavern immediately was a better idea and establishing a second Aether Vial. You know, sometimes when I'm doing these replays, I'm actually not as sharp as when I was actually dialed in during the game. This is, I think, the superior play because I'm going to want to tick this Aether Vial up to 3 and then 4. And so it'd be really nice to have a second Aether Vial on 2. And again, taking the opponent off of uncounterable mana is going to be perfect for us if we draw into any of those Ceremonious Rejections. And I guess, you know, the sequencing makes sense since I'm going to be able to get the Reejereys into play with the Aether Vial next turn. Well, I only had 1 Reejerey when I played the Spreading Seas, and I drew into the second Reejerey. So if I only had 1 Reejerey and I was going to be able to sort of deploy it with Aether Vial, I might as well use my mana to play my non-creature spells that Aether Vial can't help with. So the opponent is making his land drops, but it doesn't look like he's playing a lot of threatening stuff. He's getting in for 2 in the air. Does have access to 5 mana if he sacks the Eldrazi Scion. Well, it's just another Sky Spawner, so he's taking it to the air this game. And now he'll have access to 6 mana. Sacks a Scion, sacks another Scion. I always like seeing the opponent sack those Scions to cast some small creature because that means they're not going to have tons and tons of mana for like something gigantic. Okay, we'll definitely take Aether Vials up. Land is sensational here, so I'm going to activate this Aether Vial, and this is actually going to be a really fun turn. Because I can play this Wanderwine Hub, reveal Master of Waves, play the Master of Waves, and then what do we do with our Reejerey trigger? Well, of course, we untap our Aether Vial. We get to play another Reejerey, so this is a pretty explosive turn for us. Now, it's extra cool because putting in the second Reejerey gets me more devotion for Master of Waves. So that was pretty cool. Actually, drawing that land was key. Otherwise, I would have had to wait another turn to vial in Master of Waves. But as it went, I got to bring in all these guys and get all the elementals. So no attacks yet because we only really had the Island Walk Lord that turn. Opponent, after playing a land, they're getting a little flooded here, I guess, has 2 cards in hand. Okay, well, they have a Dismember for the Master of Waves. That's pretty awesome. And they had black mana, so I think they paid 1 life. They played colorless, 1 life, and then it's like they paid 3 instead of 4, effectively, for the Dismember. So we have Island Walk. They might as well get in the air. I'm going to go from 18 down to 14. And they have a follow-up. With the last card in their hand, it's another Matter Reshaper. So Echoing Truth looks like it would be pretty solid here. I'm going to take both Aether Vials up, and any creature would be pretty solid here because I can tap both Matter Reshapers, get in with the Island Walk Lord if I want. Ceremonious Rejection would be good. Well, Kira, I don't really know that there's a ton that I have to worry about right now. to protect with Kira. Opponent is empty-handed. They just played one of their few removal spells. I could play a Spreading Seas, draw a card, which I have so many live draws. Then I could hit another Master of Waves to Vial in. I could draw another Spreading Seas and use my other 2 mana, get another draw, potentially hit something that I can Vial in. Kira, unfortunately, doesn't get Reejerey triggers, but getting more creatures onto the board and protecting what I've already built up seems ultimately like the best idea. So swing with Island Walk, and then Kira will set us up for lethal actually next turn, right? Because, well, unless the opponent leaves back blockers, which seems like it might be prudent if he would just be dead on board otherwise. So he's getting in with everybody, which is interesting because, I mean, it's 3, 6, it's 10, right? Which would put me down to 4, which is a little bit uncomfortable. And then what if they follow up? They only have 1 card in hand, so there's no way. They don't have the lands for something like All Is Dust. If they followed up with another Sky Spawner, you get a Scion, they could block Kira, they could block the Island Walk Lord, and then win. So with the protection from Kira, I felt sort of priced into blocking this Matter Reshaper. Yes, it gets them a card off the top of the deck, but what can they really draw here that wins them the game with Kira protecting our team? So I do block a Matter Reshaper. You guys let me know if there was something that could have gone horribly wrong that he could have ripped off the top of the deck here. So as it went, he revealed a Cavern of Souls, and it just went onto the battlefield. So the 1 card in his hand was a Spatial Contortion. He couldn't have used it against our creatures because Kira is protecting us. So he tries to kill his own Matter Reshaper to dig into outs. I don't know what his outs are, honestly. Let's see what he drew here. All right, so we haven't seen any of this stuff yet. This is Elder Deep Fiend. It is an Emerge card that uses blue mana. So this guy has Flash. I think it was a pretty big deal in Standard for a while. I know nothing about Standard, but this was just me sort of getting the impression on Reddit that he was pretty good in Standard. Anyhow, the way that Emerge works is you can sacrifice a creature while you're casting this thing, and then reduce the cost of Elder Deep Fiend's Emerge cost by that. So if he sacks an Eldrazi Sky Spawner, that's going to make, instead of this costing 7, it's going to make it cost 4. And he has exactly 4. It says when you cast this, you can tap up to 4 permanents. So for up to 4 target permanents. So I'm pretty sure they all have to be different permanents. So they can't get double targeted. And so Kira's protection is actually a massive deal here because I think, let's see, if the opponent passes the turn, and then on my attack step, if I don't have Kira, he flashes this guy in, taps my 3 or 4 creatures, and then untaps, he would have lethal with 4 in the air and a 5/6 on the ground, unless I drew into something like a Harbinger of the Tides or something, which could bounce this guy. But bouncing this guy isn't great because it puts it back in the opponent's hand. So Kira is actually super clutch here. Wow. So this is not a very typical Modern deck, and it's doubly cool because it's not just uncommon, but it's uncommon and successful. This was the exact deck that Tenchi went undefeated in the Swiss in a recent Modern challenge with. So there's obviously some really powerful tech being played in the deck. It's just I almost randomly had protection against it with Kira this game. So go to my turn, leave the Aether Vials where they are. And what am I going to draw here? I'm not even sure it matters. Mutavault, it's pretty poor. But assuming that, you know, Kira protects me from this guy, and he's not flying, and it's the only card in hand, I can just get in with 8 Island Walk and 2 in the air for 10 with the opponent at night. I'm going to try to cast Spreading Seas, and then in response, since the only things that he can target are my lands and Aether Vials, I think he's going to do this before I draw a card. It's really tight play by the opponent, playing this exactly when he's playing it here, but I think he's dead anyway, so it's sort of moot. But anyhow, I appreciate the precision of the timing there. Ceremonious Rejection showing up at the end of the game. So it looks like I was able to get there. The opponent commented on how great Kira was in this particular game. All right, so I ended up going 4-1 with my only loss to Jund, which was a little bit disappointing because I considered Jund a pretty solid matchup that we have good sideboard answers for. But I'm always happy to go 4-1. So let me know your guys' thoughts on this match. Let me know if you've actually come across this deck. I imagine that Tenchi can't be the only person who's playing it and testing it right now. But it's impressive that he took it, piloted it to the result that he did recently. Please leave any questions you might have. Subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my Patreon page. And please just tune in for the next video where I'm sure I'll be back with more modern competitive leagues. Merfolk, Mono Blue Merfolk specifically, feels really, really good in the metagame right now. There's a lot of Jund that we do decently against, especially if we bring Tidebinder Mages with us. We always have Relic of Progenitus to do a good job against that deck. There's been a lot more red-green Ponza lately, now that Bloodbraid Elf has been unbanned, and also because I think red-green Ponza does really well against Jund, or tries to do really well against Jund, because like a turn 2 or turn 3 Blood Moon can do a lot of work against a deck like Jund. So there's been a ton of red-green Ponza, which, as I mentioned in that video, is one of our best matchups. And then, you know, I've just been doing well with the deck. So let me know how you think we're situated right now in the metagame. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks again very much. Bye.